Thank you all very much. Good afternoon. I want us to think about really popular movies and TV shows of the last couple of years. If you think about them, The Avengers, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, these are all very fantastical stories with amazing, magical characters. Yeah, you're right, sir, yeah. And ever wondered why that is? Why are we so drawn to stories like this? And when I ask this question to my students, they say, well, look, Professor Hunter, The Avengers, it's just beautiful actors and actresses and explosions. It's just meant to be entertaining. It doesn't mean anything. And in this, my beloved students are, as so often is the case, half right. They are correct in that these films are designed to be entertaining. But what I want them and you to think about is what it means to be entertaining on a mass scale. These films cost $150, sometimes $200 million to make. If you're investing $200 million, you're not just throwing any old stuff up there on screen and saying, gee, just make it a little bit entertaining. Every second of these films and TV shows is scrutinized by editors and photographers and directors and producers and marketing people and studio executives. And it is designed to cater to our desires, to your desires, to be as popular as possible, to as many people as possible. And what that means is we can learn something about ourselves from these films. We can learn not just what entertains us, but what we're afraid of and what we want, because precisely they're made to cater to our desires. And so I want us to think about two things that I think popular culture tells us. The first is we really resent the technologies that run our lives. We're going to see a lot of popular films and TV. You know what we're not going to see? We're not going to see any cell phones, and we're not going to see any network computers. And I'm going to argue that that's because we resent what these things are doing and the control that they have over our lives. The second thing we're not going to see is 2017. We don't make popular entertainments about right here, right now. We make them about a past that is cut off from the present and about a future that is depressingly well connected to our present moment. So let's start our exploration. Let's think about what the top grossing movies of 2016 were. Well, if we look at this list, we have 5 superhero movies, 3 animated features, 1 CGI remake of an animated feature, and a Star Wars film. Okay, what about 2015? Well, here's 2015. 2 animated features, 1 CGI remake of an animated feature. You're beginning to spot the trends. 4 action movies from established franchises, The Martian, American Sniper, and a Star Wars movie. You'll notice that something very important is missing from 19 of the 20 most popular films of the last 2 years. And that something is reality. None of them are about the way we live in 2017. And even American Sniper, which is the exception, is arguably a pretty extreme version of the way we live now. We don't want to see ordinary life as we experience it. What about TV? Maybe TV's a little more realistic. These are the top-rated TV series of the 2016-17 season. 3 of them are NFL football games, the farthest thing from reality known to humankind. Okay? Top-rated show, The Walking Dead, a fantastical version of the future populated by zombies. And this is backed up by Game of Thrones, a fantastical version of the past populated by dragons. And The X-Files, a fantastical version of the present, which tells us that what we think of as normal is a thin layer on top of unbelievably weird forces that are actually ruling our lives. All right. Then there's Empire. And there we think, well, okay, all right, here's the real. I mean, here it is right in here, right now, the music industry. But if you think about it, Empire is actually a really, really clever Game of Thrones remake. There's a king and 3 sketchy heirs and a queen you really don't want to cross, or you end up dead. So it's, for all that it's set in the here and now, it's actually a dynastic power play, very much drawn from the Game of Thrones playbook. Where's reality? I'll tell you where reality is. Reality is the Big Bang Theory, which represents women with a lot of common sense and very highly educated, socially awkward white guys who earn much, much more money than they do. That, my friends, is reality in 2017. Yeah. So the question is why? Why? Why, when we imagine the present, and the Avengers is very much set in the present, do we imagine a world in which only a thought-out, genetically modified World War II veteran, a Norse god, and a green-skinned giant with anger management issues are the only people who can get anything done? That's our present. When we imagine the past, we imagine this costume parade like Mad Men or Game of Thrones. When we imagine the future, we imagine The Walking Dead, we're threatened by zombies, or Mad Max Fury Road, complete environmental degradation. These are they. These are the films that we go to see of, millions and millions and millions of us. So again, what I'd like to talk about is why there's this aversion to technology. Why don't we see any cell phones or networked computers? And what does it mean that they're located in the past that's cut off from us, the future that is all too well connected to us, but never the here and now? So let's start with the past. I want to talk about 3 TV shows. There's The Man in the High Castle, which is set in 1962. Stranger Things, which is set in 1983. And maybe one of the best things that's come on television in the last 10 years or so, Mad Men, which is set in the decade between 1960 and 1970. Now, some of you may know, The Man in the High Castle is set in a imagined version of 1962, in a world where Germany and Japan won World War II and occupied America. As you can see, the West occupied Japan by Japan and the East by the United States. But in the TV show, there are these movies that depict a world where Germany and Japan lost World War II, and 2 atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, what we know as history. So here you've got this show that is perfectly set in 1962, and if you've seen the show, you know what I mean. The clothes are right, all the men are smoking, the women are all at home. It's perfect. It's just that the Nazis are in charge. So it's a fantasy version of the past that at once gives us our past and changes it, makes it untrustworthy. Stranger Things is set in 1983 with a bunch of kids playing Dungeons & Dragons, and that was me. That was me. That haircut in the middle, that is a 1983 haircut, and that was me. So I'm here to tell you, very, very historically accurate. Alas. So a bunch of kids playing Dungeons & Dragons, but at the same time, there's this other world that in the show is called the Upside Down, where very, very real monsters that belong in Dungeons & Dragons actually break into reality with very, very traumatic effects. And then there's Mad Men. Don Draper, the perfect alpha male, always well-dressed, the perfect husband, the perfect father, the type A, successful advertising executive. But he's living a lie. Early in season 1, we learned that he stole the identity, Don Draper, from a dead soldier in the Korean War to escape his traumatic upbringing. So again, we've got a show where there's this vision of history, and it's fundamentally untrustworthy. The main character isn't always truthful about anything. And in a way, he's a bit like John Smith, who, if you watch The Man in the High Castle, you know is one of the main protagonists there. Now just look at that. That's the Leave It to Beaver dad, isn't it? He's a U.S. Army veteran, he's a devoted husband, he's a wonderful father, and he's a brutal Nazi SS officer. So we get a past that we can't trust, things that we recognize, but that we can't connect to ourselves. What about the future? Well, how many of you, hands up, if you were made to read 1984 in high school? Yeah, most of you. It's very few people escape 1984. Well, you remember, in 1984, one of the scary things about the world that George Orwell represents is the technology, particularly what you can see behind me, the telescreen, which allows the government to spy on you and you to get a 24/7 diet of government propaganda. Now, when Orwell wrote that book in 1948, that was a crazy idea. That was the dystopic technological future. We know it as reality, don't we? Doesn't matter what country you live in, Russia, China, the United States, the UK, every security service of every country on earth is checking up on our emails and our online activity. We know this. This is from October of last year. What Orwell dreaded is 24/7 reality for us, and that is why we don't want to see our own present day on screen. And the visions of the future we do make, to come back to The Walking Dead and Mad Max Fury Road, show two specific divergent paths. The Walking Dead is about the degradation of the human species. Right? We're the problem. It's us gone wrong. Mad Max Fury Road is what happens if we keep doing what we're doing to the planet, on and on and on. It's the total degradation of the environment. Now, why zombies? Zombies in The Walking Dead are the same as and interestingly different from the other monsters we've seen. You remember these guys from about 10 years ago? So every Hollywood action movie needs something you can kill without remorse, something that you can just slaughter in hundreds of thousands with no moral qualms for the characters or the audience. And in The Walking Dead, it's zombies. It used to be these guys, or these guys, or these guys. But it's not so very long since it was these guys, or these guys. Hollywood's actually changed a lot. In the 1930s, we represented Native Americans and African tribesmen as this force that had to be disciplined, contained, or if necessary, eradicated for civilization to triumph. In the 60s and 70s, we figured it out a bit, and we projected all this onto aliens. It's okay, you don't have to care about the aliens, you can slaughter them and you don't have to feel bad. Well, welcome to the 21st century, and now the monster is us. We're the monster. It's a degraded version of us. It's the zombie version of our friend and our cousin that's trying to kill us and eat us. It's a representation, in other words, of human beings gone wrong. We no longer project it out onto the other. The problem, to paraphrase the Sex Pistols, is us. And so we get these representations. This could be from a 19th century pioneer movie, isn't it? There's Rick and Carl, father and son, and the son even has his kind of US cavalryman's hat on, and they're growing their food, and it's awesome until you look in the background. And there they are, the return of the repressed, waiting to eat them. All right, it's all very well if you can keep the wall up, but you can't always keep the wall up, can you? In Mad Max Fury Road, people don't want a condo in Park Avenue, they want clean water. That's as high as their desires go. Welcome to our future, and it's a perfectly believable future, as you'll hear from some of our other speakers. But what about Star Wars? Surely Star Wars can save us from this, the biggest, the most popular pop cultural mythos of all. But Star Wars, its relationship to technology is very, very subtle. So sure, we want the Death Star because there has to be a big quest for the heroes to succeed at, and we're prepared to believe that there's this magical shield that can cover a whole planet, but nobody uses anything like a cell phone, and nobody communicates on anything like a computer network. In fact, when you get to that, it's really charmingly old school. And that's not the only old school thing about Star Wars. When we meet Han Solo, there's a strong sense that we've seen something like this before, that we're not really in the future. I mean, look at Han Solo's blaster. Could that be any more like a Peacemaker Colt? It could be John Wayne, or if you're old like me, Randolph Scott. Or for those of you who don't remember those guys, it could be Clint Eastwood. So everything about the story is reassuringly old. It's not new. So at the climax of Rogue One, there's Jyn, and she's got the super secret plans of the Death Star. And look, she's got them on what is clearly a VHS video cassette. Like, what the heck is going on with that? Right? They have faster than light travel. They have a shield that can cover an entire planet. But no, it's analog media only when the story gets going. And there's poor old Bodhi Rook getting shot at. Why is he getting shot at? because they only have dial-up internet on this space station, apparently, and he's got to plug in the cable. It's like a fire hose. We wouldn't put up with that in 2017. And it's funny when you think about it, but it's absolutely deliberate. The makers of Star Wars are very, very smart. They know we don't want to see network technology because that's part of the world that we don't like. So to conclude, these things show us the past that we can't really feel connected to, a future that we're afraid we're going to make, and a present that has none of the technology that runs our lives in it. We are the unknown, and the future, which may be unknowable, is, unfortunately for us, unthinkable. Thank you very much.